Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have the one and only Loral Langemeier on the show. And this woman is absolutely incredible. She's known as the Millionaire Maker. So do me a favor and share this out. And let's get a bunch of people on here. And we're going to welcome Laurel here in just a second. Stay with us. Okay, we're back. Let me bring Laurel on. Laurel, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you? So good to be here.
I don't even have, we had a couple of technical glitches, everybody, and I don't even have a back. I feel embarrassed. I don't even have a background ready for you because we had to switch platforms, but
That's all
we're
right.
here. We're
We're
here.
here and we're live
Yeah.
and we have a lot to share.
Yeah. So Laurel, I've done a lot of interviews on this show, and I always like to start with kind of you letting people know where it all started for you, where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in Nebraska. So I was in the southeast corner of Nebraska, big farm family, lots of brothers and sisters. Was baling hay and working, driving tractor at 7 years old. And uh, it all began there. And then at 17, which was really fun yesterday, I was on a broadcast and Dennis Waitley showed up. So when I was
Wow.
17, I got a book from Dennis Waitley, those where they're on the stage and going, Ken, if you want a book, run to the stage. So I ran to the
Yeah.
stage and got Think and Grow Rich. He was giving those away. So you can imagine the farm girl's brain got blown away going like, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother way that people live in the world. So
Yeah.
that really transitioned my journey, and I got a business degree, worked in an investment bank for about 1 minute and said, this job thing's not for me. So I had a personal training business. So then I went and got a master's in exercise physiology, put those degrees together, very odd. But then started doing corporate wellness in the late 80s and early 90s. So I built 272 fitness centers for Chevron offshore oil rigs to refineries all over the world, and then jumped in 1996 to Bob Proctor, who has a lifetime mentor of mine. We had a business together for a while called Head of the Table. People will pay Bob
Wow.
$100,000 for the year to work with them. And Bob said, it's time to jump again. So he introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki, Sharon Lechter. So I became the master distributor of the cash flow game. 90.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did that from 96 to 99, became a real estate millionaire, and then jumped and did my own thing. So this is like our 25th. Next year will be my 25th year officially of mentoring and mastermind in what I call my big table. So I've been doing.
Okay, so this is crazy.
And
Sharon is a friend of mine. I love
she's
Sharon
my mom.
Lechter.
She's my financial mom, I call her.
I love Sharon. You gotta know, you have to know Mark Victor Hansen
I
then. Like
know,
Mark,
I know every person that I just saw in that breakthrough. Yep, I'm
that's
your.
so amazing. So okay. Wow, that was so fast. Um
Lots of pieces and parts to my world. And I've been a
there's
single
yeah.
mom. I've got two beautiful kids, 25 and 18. And my 25-year-old is getting married, lives in Nashville, becoming a CPA and tax strategist.
Wow.
And then my daughter is in her senior year, and then she'll be going to Flagstaff to Northern Arizona. So I'm about to be an
Wow.
empty nester next fall.
What are you gonna do with all your free time?
Oh, I'll keep doing this, and I grow. I have one of the what will become the largest marijuana grow in Nevada. I'm right in the middle of, not quite in the middle, but I'm right on the 95 between. I'm in northern Nevada in the Lake Tahoe area and
Okay.
Vegas. So my farm is like 2 hours, 2.5 hours south and 4.5 hours north, right in the thoroughfare. 33 acres. So I'll be growing medical marijuana and doing this, keeping teach. I just love this. I mean, I
So
always
let me
think,
see here. Let me give you full screen. I want to see that book, The Millionaire Maker. Okay, so let's talk about that.
well,
First,
I got to show you this one too. This
hold
was
on. Let me give you full screen again.
this was
Make
the
your
sale.
kids
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. So this was a 2005, right? And this was 2022 because I had to actually make sure this worked. So my kids were millionaires on paper by age 10. So I teach these really, I shouldn't say extreme. I mean, they're normal strategies, but most people don't know how to put them together.
That's insane. Okay, so let's talk about, first off, let's back up because I grew up in farm country, Ohio.
No,
Um, Not nearly as depressing driving across the state of Ohio as it is Nebraska, though.
very.
I was like, I drove across. It's like 6 hours, I think, or something. I'm like,
Oh
oh
no,
my
these about
gosh,
eight of
is it
just
eight?
corn, soybeans, corn, soybeans, corn, soybeans.
It's unbelievable. So back up to the farm, growing up on a farm, because I think that that's so important.
Mhm.
You said you were baling hay at 7 years old. I've baled hay, and I've said this. I've actually said this, I think, to Glenn even. Like, I think every kid in America needs to go bale hay for a season,
I do too.
at least
I,
once.
and clean hog barns and
And yep,
yep, and then teach,
yep,
we did 4-H, we were an FFA, so we had sheep, we had pigs, we had cows, we had chickens, we had rabbits, you name it, we had it. I
yep.
rodeoed. I was the only one that really got into the horse world. I love barrel racing and rodeo. But yeah, it's a
Wow.
very different kind of learning work ethic, and you kind of learn to work on a team before you even know what's a team, right? I mean, there's such
Yeah.
associated behaviors of you all have to get along. I had this joke with my parents. I said, the only reason you have all these kids is so we're your workforce.
Right. That's true though, right? So I think that and people that haven't baled hay, I remember one time somebody called a farmer I worked for calls me, "Hey, I need you to come out. It's getting ready to rain. We got to pick up all these bales and get them in the barn before the rain hits." And I'm like, "Okay." And I had on these these swimming trunks and a t-shirt. Terribly bad idea to go bale hay in that attire, just so you know. But
Yeah.
anyway, I do think that that does form a very strong work ethic, and that's
Mhm.
so important when it comes to success. So talk
Exactly.
about when if you would talk about when you made that, because I'm trying to go back. You went through that really really fast.
Yep.
So you worked in corporate and you said, no, I can't do this.
Like a minute. Like I really didn't even work there for 30 days. It was an investment bank. I thought people get up, like first of all, they sit in traffic for hours because I was in San
No.
Francisco area, sit in traffic to get there. And then you sit there, it's like, no, not doing any of this. Like, this is
Yeah.
crazy to be an entrepreneur. Didn't know how to be an entrepreneur. I mean, but when you really think about it, farming is an entrepreneur. Like I wasn't raised in that psychology of, we have our own company, we have our own,
Yeah.
it wasn't raised like that. It was just
Yeah.
this what you do. Like generations just, continue to work.
So when you left there, that's when you became an entrepreneur? You started your own
Well, I started
deal?
at 17 because I didn't want to get a job during college to supplement. I went to a private university in Nebraska.
Okay.
So I had, so again, got a little job for a minute and said, this is ridiculous. And I remember being in this gym and people were following other people around, or that's what it looked like. And I'd asked the owner, I said, what are they doing? And they said, that's called personal training. It's like brand new. This was like at 84, 85. I said, well, how much do they make? And he's like, well, I don't know, like 30, 40, $50. And I said, I'm a personal trainer today. And I was, I played basketball in college. So, I mean, I was working out and doing out. I thought, I know more about strength training and cardiovascular training than these people. So I actually had my own personal training business through college. That's how I kind of worked my way through college. And then I kind of broke into the corporate wellness. I went back to that bank that I worked at. And I said, if you give me a small budget, I will build you a fitness center in the basement for your employees. So then you could do like some health incentives. So this was probably 87, 88, 89 is when I just kind of started making stuff up. And then, so then it just kind of went from there. And then in 92, I think 92-ish, or 90-ish, I applied for this little tiny ad in the paper that said, fitness trainer, expert looking, like it was an ad for Chevron. And so I'm in
Yeah.
Nebraska area doing all this. And there was this little ad in the paper. And I thought, well, there's no way they're going to hire some Nebraska farm girl to go work on offshore oil rigs. I don't even know what an offshore oil rig is. I don't even know what it looks like. So I to go to New Orleans and I was in my 20s. So I'm like, well, it's a free trip and I'm going to party in the French Quarter and check it out for the first time. So I went really thinking there's no way in heck I'm going to get hired. They flew me out in a helicopter to a rig. And I had those little jumpsuits on and, with the big glasses and everything. And I remember flying back in on the helicopter and the engineer looked at me. He said, so do you think you can do this? He said, we need 272 fitness centers. You'll have millions of dollars and you're going to orchestrate it. And I remember I was 24 years old. I said, oh, absolutely. And I'm thinking, what? Barbara, like I call those yes moments where you say yes and you have no freaking idea what you're doing.
Right.
And the real key to success in that breakthrough, and I think this is so key for everyone to get, is it's not that I knew how to do it. I knew how to lead it. I was going to go find people. So then I got my wits about me for like 2 minutes. And I said, so who else bid on this contract? And he said, well, LSU, there's a bunch of engineers that wanted to do it. And I thought, obviously I'm going to need engineers. So what do you think I did? I didn't go party in New Orleans. I rented a car. I drove down to LSU and I said, look, I got the contract. And I said, but I need people and I need engineers and we're going to figure this out because no one had ever done it before. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, of Connex boxes. So we took Connex, those rail cars. And if there was 20 men, they got one, like 40 by 20. And if there was like 40 men, so we just kept building these Connex, hooked them together. And then we engineered them up on the side of the rig. So they had a separate, because at that time you could still smoke on the rigs. And I said, you can't have, cardiovascular work in a smoking environment. So then we had to level them off to the outside. So yeah, we just got creative. It was fascinating. But then I thought like that changed me so much though, Ken, because you're thinking, first, I'm in a male-dominated world. There's over 3,000 men. There's only maybe 30 women at that time that were working offshore. So I had to have security guards, bodyguards, at all times. It was crazy. It was the craziest work environment. And I flew offshore for 5 days and I'd fly back. And then I'd hang out. Oh, my God. And then I flew back offshore and then I'd go back to New Orleans for the weekend.
Well, so you're saying, when you say offshore, you mean out to oil rigs in the middle of the ocean?
Well, in the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah. So I was from Destin Dome, Florida to Corpus Christi, Texas. That whole area, those were the fitness centers for Chevron, 272. So sometimes you would fly for hours in helicopters to go deep, deep, deep. They call it deep water. So yeah, it's interesting. It was fascinating. It changed me a lot. Well,
I would imagine.
So much courage about, if I can do this, I can do anything. So, but then 1996 rolls around. So that I did the whole Chevron thing for a while and I was just so done with corporate. I did have to become an employee because I couldn't afford the helicopter insurance and the seaplane insurance and having that, I didn't have my own. So I had to become theirs. So I remember when Bob said, go meet Robert Kiyosaki, Sharon Lecter. I'm like, who are these people? I said, Bob, like what? Like, and they hadn't hit yet. Like the Rich Dad Poor Dad didn't hit till 97, 98. So it was 96. And then I just hit. And Glenn loves this story, though. I love that we're both really good friends of Glenn Morshower. I love that man. But I literally, and then like I was teased so much by like fellow executives at Chevron. They're like, you're going to quit this huge job, this huge 401k plan to go follow a Japanese guy in a game around. I said, go figure out how to sell a game. They're like, you have now lost your freaking mind again. And again,
my God.
But I say to people all the time, they say, what if Rich Dad Poor Dad? Because a lot of books don't hit, as you know. I love Les Brown saying the greatest dreams and some of the greatest IP in the world is in graveyards because people never publish. They never, I always say, this is just my brains on paper. This is just my knowledge base poured into a book. People, I think, over esteem, being a publisher. I think everybody has a publisher in them. It's just not outside of your head yet. You got to get your brains on paper. So I literally, I'm interviewed a lot though, and the people say, what if he didn't hit though? What if Rich Dad Poor Dad didn't become what it was? And I said, then it would have opened another door. And I think that is the break. That's kind of if you break through walls. Yeah, you have to keep moving, and you have to keep following, not just your dreams and passions, because I don't believe that. I think you have to follow. I follow money. I follow, I follow where I think I have a big challenge. I follow where big problems are. Like, why am I doing this? Because there's like, this is an unsolved problems. Like in my lifetime, I can't teach enough people how to do this right. Or how to do kids stuff right. So you just keep doing stuff. Like when I published that kids book in 2022, and this is post-COVID, right? And people aren't buying books, like books. I mean, this is almost 100-page guide on 87 things to do between 0 and 20 years old to your kids. Like So people are like, what are you doing in 2022? So it wasn't really working, quite frankly, when I first launched the book. And I'm like, well, and I pre-sell my books. So my son came up with the idea because he was watching Gary Vaynerchuk going, what if we get an NFT space? So what we did is we coupled NFTs with the book, and people get NFTs if they bought a case of books, so I could become a bestseller because I needed to sell thousands of books.
Yeah.
So we used NFTs as the front to get people to buy what I needed, which helped me become a bestseller. So
wow.
I'm just sharing these stories mainly because I want people that are listening, like, it's all in front of you. You just have to say yes more, and you've got to, like, surround yourself with better people. I can tell you that. Like, I would not be here without the greatest people in the world around me.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, let's unpack that for just a second. Cause I think that, Glenn, I was talking to Glenn right before we got on here, and he goes, well, have you ever met her? I said, no, we haven't met. And he goes, she is a very strong woman. You're going to love her. And so, I think that, I don't know how to word this. I see people saying their paycheck isn't going far enough. They're not making enough money, yada, yada, yada. And I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. And I'm thinking, what do you mean you're not go make it then? Just go figure it out. Like, what do you mean you're not making enough money? Go make it. It's out there. It's everywhere. Like, I dropped out of high school in 12th grade because they said I needed a biology credit. And I'm like, then forget it. I'm out of here. And I'm, and again, I realized at 20 years old, I was an idiot and I didn't know anything. And so I started listening to Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and all the, and I'm like, I just think that people, and I want to hear your opinion on this, because I think that people have more excuses than they have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they allow this to stop them from having everything, like literally.
100%. 100%. Like, when people say, oh, I can't afford it, then go make some money. Like, and getting a second job is not making more money. It's like, you all have skills, you all have talents. Like, I have a new client, she's bilingual, and she's like, well, maybe I'll just start some tutoring. I'm like, tutoring? I said, translation, with the amount of Spanish people in the United States. I said, go find like some court jobs, mediation jobs. You want to make $1 million being a bilingual translator? Then you go where the money is. And there's just a disassociation, I think, with whatever my skill set or whatever my degree is, then I have to do the degree, versus, the greatest entrepreneurs, as you know, Ken, are the biggest problem solvers. Like, what are the problems that you could solve, and put the people around you to do it. And because I know, like, we're so employee centrically trained, which means, when an opportunity comes, most people have, like you said, this immediate, they'll say yes, and then literally in a nanosecond, they'll have 900 excuses of why they can't do it. And I said, it's not because I'm telling you, like, when I teach people to be an entrepreneur, I say, you have to market, you have to have a website, you have to have a sales team, you have to have an accounting department. They're like, I don't know how to do it. And I didn't say you do. You have to lead it all. You don't have to do it. In fact, people who do the most make the less.
Right.
The people who lead the most and get their head up and, like, look for opportunities and deals, they're the ones making the most because they're leading the opportunity.
Yep.
People ask a lot of times too, like, how did you learn it? And it's like, you start hanging out with us. Like, I mean, early, like 17, when I read Think and Grow Rich, I'm like, I'm going to go hang. Like, these are my new people.
Yeah.
I got denied in lots of circles, especially young. You get like, who are you? Like, you don't have any experience. What are you bringing to the team? And so you got to stand in during those moments of, being pushed back. And I don't play that woman excuse game either. You'll love that whole conversation. Well, because when women say, well, we're paid less, or we're blah, blah, it's like, oh, that is such BS. I make more than my male counterparts most of the time. And it's not because I'm better than it. The other thing too, that I think too many people do, I'm curious on your opinion. I think they look side to side and they compare, and they see their competition, and they're living their goal through other people's competition versus, I guess as an athlete too, you grow up, and all my whole family was athletes, Cornhuskers, by the way. But for us, is you compete with yourself. What's your personal best in athletic terms? What's your personal best record? And so it's not about, oh, I got to go beat, Ken, I got to go make more than Ken, I got to make more than Glenn. It's what can I do? Like, just challenge yourself and get out of your way.
you're no wonder Glenn said I'm gonna love you. Like you're
Just
the
you know,
female version of me. Because I literally, it the excuses.
mhm.
So Xena, who's watching right now, is in my academy. My wife's watching, and I am an ass kicker. I'm like, what do you mean you're not going live? I teach live streaming and social media, and so I'm like, what? Go live? Just what do you mean? Just go live? Like it's and I've often thought, I think I may just be one of those people that's just too dumb to say no. Like I don't know. I don't know how to. I love when an opportunity is presented to me. I mean, obviously, I don't say yes to every opportunity. That'd be insane. Oh, look, we got Tony Rodriguez on here. What's up, Tony? You know that guy?
Yep. I,
That's crazy. But I just think that people have these excuses that they're at the ready, and it's the stories they're telling themselves about what they're capable of. I think mainly that's my opinion.
I would agree. And I think that a lot of people put a cap on themselves. Like one of the biggest employee to entrepreneur mistakes that I see, and I speak a lot, I have a huge YouTube channel. That's where I do a lot of my family training. But the biggest excuses or the mistake, I'm going to say is not excuse. It's in the excuse land, is they're trying to replace their income. So whatever career you choose, if you really think about a lot of people, they've capped themselves. They put, they say, well, I'm going to be a teacher. So, all right, you're going to cap yourself between 60 and maybe 100 if you're like really get to the top of the food chain. And
Yep.
I'm going to be a doctor. Like, so then you cap yourself versus why don't you just go make $1 million? Like I wouldn't look at any business venture unless I got a 7-figure opportunity in it. Like I'm not getting out of bed for 6 figures, like not anymore. I mean, I got out of bed
Right.
in my career for that. I mean, but making your 6 figures also, let's speak about that. That is the hardest money as an entrepreneur you'll ever make because you're figuring out being an entrepreneur and you don't have quite enough money because you're living on a bunch of it. And then you got, if you're with me, you won't pay much tax on it, but then
Right.
there's not enough money to hire the team. Because what I talk about is team made millionaires. And people always use the excuse, well, I can't afford it. And what's our answer? Well, go make some more money. Well, I don't know
Yep.
how. Well, then learn to market, right? Or
Yep.
better, just hire a marketing team. Well, I can't afford it. And what's really fun is I watch some people like take out 0% financing and go for it. And they actually do hire the team. And guess what? The people who actually take, I'm going to say, a risk on themselves, they have enough trust in themselves and the team they put around mentoring that we're going to go get past that first 6 figures. Because once you're past the first 6 figures, then you just amplify your marketing, you amplify your sales, and all of a sudden you're hitting $1 million. It's not hard to hit $1 million in a year. But
Yeah.
most people, they can't even fathom it because they're trying to replace their $250,000 job. And it's like,
Yep.
it's not even the same conversation. It's not even the same behavior. It's not the same category. I don't know. It's an excuse.
I think, you said something very early on in this conversation, and that was what happened when you were 17. And Don Green is a good friend of mine, and he's amazing. And Napoleon Hill put out the blueprint, and Think and Grow Rich is an amazing blueprint. Then Sharon did Outwitting the Devil, which is freaking unbelievable. And
That
and
was, and then we did, I was a big part of her, do I have it back here somewhere? The Think and Grow Rich for
uh,
Women. Think and Grow
you
Rich for
don't.
Women. Think and Grow Rich for
Oh yeah.
all those. Like I helped Sharon do, I'm in those
Wow.
books too. But
Wow.
Outwitting the Devil was interesting because it was public. I mean, he wrote it like forever ago. And I think it was his wife, if that's correct in the
Yeah.
story. His wife was like, you're not publishing that. And
Right.
after he passed that, then Sharon brought it to life, with Don.
Because it goes against
Oh yeah.
dogma. But I do think that you said that you read that at 7. Well, it was given to you.
Mm-hmm.
The key was you read it
Yep.
and then started applying it. And I think that people don't realize the value in. I mean, I publish books, and I've like 85% of all books purchased aren't even read all the way through. And
Right.
it's like, man, you're missing out on so much knowledge that's available. And it's literally next to free. You don't have to go to college if you want this. In fact, I think it's a waste of time to go get a business degree when you could just read a bunch of books and get way more knowledge and start applying it in real time. Again, just my opinion.
No, and that's honestly like people say, how did you become this? There's so many like college kids who say, what was your degree? How did you become, a 6-time best-selling author? And like you, I'm like, I was just part of that whole Eric Swanson 13 books. In fact, yesterday, Sharon and I and Dennis Waitley, that's where we were all there. We were celebrating our 13th book in that whole series, in the Riches series with Eric. But my point is like, just being in all those books and being all that, like you don't go to school for this. You start hanging out. And the biggest gift, I think, was when I quit Chevron. I mean, I learned a lot in corporate life, just being, well, first of all, I was leading teams. So I wasn't really an employee. I had a massive, massive budget. I could spend I was spending construction dollars all over the place. So I had a very different kind of role. But when I jumped and I went to work with the Rich Dad Poor Dad team, what I learned is how to run a company like this. So if you want to learn to be an author, speaker, trainer, podcaster, influencer, you got to come hang out with us for a while. You have no idea what it takes to run this kind of a company. And for a long time, I mean, 2020 was a little bit of a blessing from the standpoint of I was 100%. That's when I met Glenn, years and years ago. In fact, Glenn, he's invited to my son's wedding. Glenn's watching me raise my kids. I mean, I've known Glenn for so long, probably 4 or 5, but there's, what was I gonna say? Oh, it's just like working under, like in that banner and I was, again, heavily mentored by Bob and Mark Victor Hansen and Robert Allen and LeGrand, and you name them. And they're like, get deeper in. Don't just be on the outside and sell the games. Like, how did they market? How did they build that game cash flow? How, where did they go in China for it? How did the accounting look? What's the general ledger look like? I learned the business of how to do this industry, but you go to school for it. I have a business degree. Like that was all interesting, but it didn't apply here. It didn't apply to do you market as an entrepreneur. I think that's one of the hardest things. So I was going to say, so up to 2020, I was 100% stage and TV. I had no online presence. I had a little bit, whatever, a little bit of social media, a little bit of here, but I was no focus on it. No focus on a podcast, no focus on a YouTube channel. No, like getting a lead. I remember March 7th, 2020, I flew home at 29 stages and all my TV appearances were canceled. I'm like, again, how do you make money? Like, this is a whole new world. Now getting me to go walk around and go on stages, like, I don't think so. This is I like this.
Yeah, this is easy.
Got my cowboy boots and jeans on and put my leather jacket on, throw some jewelry on, a little makeup, and we're good to go.
I love
it. Soon I'll be ski gear on from waist down. And the minute I'm done here, I'm going to go skiing. So
I love that.
It's an interesting life becoming an entrepreneur. And I can't encourage parents enough to get your kids starting their own little businesses. I don't care if it's a little, I call it the 21st century lemonade stand. I don't care what it is. My kids did smoothies. They did wallets. They've sold, my daughter had like a toothpaste whitening little business, helps sell some CBD. Just get them in the environment of how to make money versus a job is your only way to make money. Like my kids want to make money. They're both really, really smart. I said, go tutor. My son made tens of thousands of dollars tutoring through COVID because people didn't know how to be outside of the classroom. And my son just said, all right. And his mom, what do you think? I said, so what do people like that are in your category of math, that level teaching, or how much do they get paid? He said, probably like 50 to 75 an hour. I said, go for 75 an hour. Let's see if you get it. He got it all day long. It's a 20. So I just can't encourage parents, like get out of yours, like and there's probably, I don't know if are you a parent, Ken?
Oh yeah. I have 2 daughters, 18 and 14. Yeah.
So like, it's another place where their excuses, get inherited, So, your kids are watching you, believe me, they're watching you, they're going to model you. And if you're excuse land, all you're doing is creating the next generation of excuse land. And if you are their bank, you're creating, again, no ability for them to think on their own, be creative on their own, process and do their own thing.
It's true. That's something that my wife and I both have spent. My wife came from corporate America as global VP of marketing for a couple of ginormous companies, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So when we met, It was in 08, 09. She had been downsized, and I'm like, just come and work with me. Let's, and she's like, but she's used to that, 250, $400,000 a year guarantee, and all of that stuff. And it's been a struggle, but she's transitioned into entrepreneurship because it's just a better way. It's a
It's
way
free.
better way.
You
And
do it.
and it's actually, honestly, you've said it. I mean, like it's unlimited opportunity. It's unlimited. And and again, there's risk that comes with it. If you're not willing to go bang on the doors and kick in the doors and do all the stuff, then you're gonna run into troubles. But you did it. You went to Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecter. You made something huge there. That became a freaking phenomenon. I mean,
Huge. And I learned so much. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. And and you don't know how to do something, you got to look. I always say find a model company. Somebody's already doing it. So when I jumped over there, of course I called Bob right back and I said, all right, if I can build fitness centers, I can figure out how to sell a game. And who at that time was the best product seller in the world? Nightingale Conant. So I flew to Chicago, met Bob there, and we spent a couple of days just learning how they move a product, how they market a product. Like you go find the best and you learn from the best. And and there's another part of that I want to bring is I don't think people are willing to pay for their own. I don't think so. I know so because I'm on the other side of it. Oh, I can't afford it. It's like you can't afford like to have the knowledge base and the experience base. You can afford it. You just don't want to spend it. And my objection handling on that word, I can't afford it. It's like, well, go outside and look at the car you drive. I bet that car is worth more than like what my tuition would cost to change your entire life with money and business. But it's
yeah.
more important that you look good in a car, or more important that you look good in whatever you're overspending on. That isn't about your financial like base of your life. So I think again, back to excuses. People have more excuses. It's just probably why they don't have as much money. I'm going to use that. That's a really good line.
I love that. That's definitely tweetable. But like hanging out with Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecter, I mean, good God.
And keep going. I had Dolph DeRue. I mean, I was in the original crew. Diane Kennedy, Garrett Sutton, Keith Cunningham. I mean, you
Wow.
name it. I was like exposed to the best in the world, all over.
That's unbelievable.
I've traveled with Tyson. I've traveled with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've traveled with Tony Ryan Blair. I mean,
Wow.
some of the greatest people in the world. And I was on the Trump tour. And now I'm like super proud to say that. I was on that original Trump tour and he had Trump University. I know, right?
Love that.
Up that next morning, and I haven't said this loud and proud to everybody, but I'll tell you, on November 6th, I was like pretty proud to be an American again because it was getting so rough out there.
Oh, and January 20th can't come fast enough. But so you just said something, and I'm watching you. Oh, Grant Cardone. I'll never forget Grant saying, because a lot of people do say, I can't afford it. I can't afford to go hang out with Glenn Morshower. Like Glenn and I do events here in Dallas, and we've done, a couple of events together here in Dallas. And it's like, Grant says, and I love this saying, if you can't afford to be in the room, figure out how to serve water in the room. Like I'll clean your trash cans. I'll do whatever I have to. And here's the thing that I've found, and I think that you'll agree with this. The most successful people I know, Mark Victor Hansen put a chapter about me in his biography, in his life story book. It's one whole chapter about me. I'm like, what? Dude, are you serious? Like, how? Why? Like, but I think that if you learn to have humility and admit that, hey, I don't know how to do this, and I really genuinely cannot afford to do it, but I'll clean your car. I'll do whatever I have to do. And most truly successful people will welcome you in and figure out a way to make it work for both of you. I found that to be true.
100%. And all those people, like even when I started real estate, like I didn't have, enough money for down payments. So I found a team. I paid $25,000 to another mentor, and he invited me into the team. But again, I had got my own way to Oklahoma City. I had a huge database of cash flow people. This is legitimately how I became a real estate millionaire. And so I flew in and he said, you have the database of the cash flow? I said, well, the ones I sold, it was like 18,000 people. He's like, 18,000 people that bought Rich Dad Poor Dad in cash flow. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for years.
Oh my God.
He's like, well, have you ever raised money before? I'm like, no, what's that? Again, I took a seat at the table,
Wow.
no clue what to do. He knew what to do. And through that 18,000 people helped, I learned how to raise $16 million. I mean, he really did all the work, but showed me how to do it, showed me how to work with lawyers, showed me how to work with accountants, how to structure it all. So I only got like 10 or 15%. I mean, I only got a small little piece of the pie, but it was a piece of the pie I never had an act bit. And I had to, like, I believe me, I had my son. He was like a baby. I was living in an apartment in Oklahoma City trying to figure this crap out. And actually that was after I became a millionaire. I had my son that year. But anyway, my point is exactly your point, which is just find a seat at the table. And if you're willing to do the work, and if even like you said, even just wash the car, take out the trash and run errands, you're in the environment of that energy. I have people that are here in my office that are here just for that exact reason. They said just to be in the front of like my decision making and, you know, like seeing the struggles of some of the, like the cannabis business is the hardest thing I've ever done. You think this stuff's hard? Are you kidding?
I'm sure.
The cannabis business is so compliant. I mean, thank God it's not federal. I'm praying that it won't be for a while. But it is the hardest, most complicated. You know, my funny saying, Ken, you'll love this. You know, I was born a farmer. I'm going to die a farmer. And I'll tell you, I knew the risks of farming. What the hell was I doing getting into cannabis? It was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Holy crap.
But I found a team. I mean, again, found the best and the best, and I have a team. Do I know how to do it? No. And frankly, do I want to learn every little thing about the strains and how to do nutrients? Nope. I just want to make sure the team knows how to get it done. I'm not going to learn all of that. And I think people don't realize that you and I, Glenn, a lot of us, we don't know the detail of it. We know how to hire the people and oversee those people to make sure that things are successful for everybody. And it's not about, it's for me. And that's the other thing too. I love that you said about humility. It's also about just being generous. Like I love putting people on our team. You want to bring some brains to our team? Perfect. We need more brains. We need more help. And I don't think people realize that people that are successful, they want and encourage people who want to learn. There's not a lot of people who want to learn. They just want it handed to them. You know, one of my sayings is people say, well, are you going to make me a millionaire? I said, no, you're going to make yourself a millionaire. I said, this isn't a done for you. This is done with you. And then I'll back out and you're going to take your own life and do what you want with. I'll be here to always support you. I have my cell phone. And so I just
love it.
Yeah, people got to it's not take more risks. It's lean in and learn more. And when people say, well, what Ken and Loral are talking about, it's really scary. And here's this is one of my favorite, like latest, probably last couple of years saying, there's nothing that I teach is risky or scary. It's risky or scary because you don't have the knowledge. And when you don't have the knowledge, it is scary. There's a fear that's in there like, oh my gosh. And the other excuse, oh, I have to trust people. Yeah, you're going to have to learn how to put some guardrails on your relationships and hold people accountable. And a lot of people don't do that either. I could go on and on and on about every reason.
You know what? I hope that because this normally goes an hour and some change, and I know you have another commitment after this. So I would love to someday in the near to distant future have you back on to discuss more. And quite honestly, you don't know this, but I'm an Amazon influencer, and I'm one of a handful of people allowed to live stream directly to Amazon. I've had Sharon on Amazon. I've had Mark Victor Hansen, John Gray, like all these amazing people. And I would like to invite you publicly to see if you would like to join me on an Amazon Live to sell your books.
Done.
Yeah.
And I have a game. I have the Millionaire Maker game. So again, learning how to do the cash flow game. I have a Millionaire Maker game.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. It's I always say if people say, like, well, how do you have a game? I said, well, start with Monopoly, then you go up to cash flow, and then the Millionaire Maker is like the big. I mean, it's I shouldn't say it's a complicated game, but it's a thorough game. It's a lot of parts and pieces because there's a lot of parts and pieces of being a millionaire.
Is it for kids or for adults or both?
8 years and up.
8 years and up. Wow.
So I always say put it somewhere where it's not like a, you know, 2 to 3 hours is like a good set kind of section for a game. But if you can put it
Yeah.
somewhere in your house and just keep it and keep going back to it. And then when you think you've got it, my favorite thing is then rotate. So then I pick up your P&L and balance sheet, you pick up mine, and now you have to do it again because you might not have done the same moves as I've done. So it's about leading, it's about tax, it's about investing, it's about becoming accredited. It's all the things. It's pretty, it depends how far you want to dig in, but it's a fun game.
Laurel,
we do it. Wait, I want to like right away.
You what?
I said when we can do it Amazon. I can't wait. Let's do that right away.
I'll send you a link, and we'll definitely be using StreamYard this time. So listen, I appreciate you being on, and I know you gotta run. So
can I give your audience a whole bunch of gifts?
Yes. I was going to ask you, is there a link that I can give everybody here up on the screen? Go ahead.
Yeah, askloral.com, ASKLORAL. They can go there and ask a question, make a request. That's like a open, free, 24/7.
Wow.
askloral.com/podcast is yes. Whoops. Put /.
Hang on.
Sorry about that.
Podcast.
And they'll get 2 tickets to my Millionaire Intensive. They're going to get all 5 ebooks of my original first 5 bestsellers and a one-on-one strategy session with my team if they want to talk to my team.
Wow. That's incredible. So askloral.com/podcast. Go get some free gifts from Laurel and schedule time. Only if you want to change your life.
Right. And no excuses.
If you like being stuck, then definitely don't go there.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Go. It's like crazy. So Laurel, thank you. If you can hang on for another minute with me, I'm going to wrap this up really fast. And if you have, okay. Yeah. All right. So everybody go to askloral.com/podcast and get the free gifts, get a consult and follow this woman everywhere. Literally follow her everywhere because you're a badass. I mean,
yes. Go to my YouTube channel. It's Loral Langemeier, the Millionaire Maker. I have a huge YouTube channel. Every piece of content in 5 years, and it's family friendly. So 5 years and up. Wow. I mean, I don't care if you're 3 years into it. You just want, part of that is just that whole subconscious. You just want that conversation in your household and not a negative excuse one. So
I love it. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't shared this out, there is time for you to redeem yourself and share this out right now. So thank you so much. Laurel, stay with me. I'll be right back with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.